Hello and welcome. It is 3 o'clock. It is the 19th day of 2021. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM. There has been a lot of requests the last couple of days to, instead of complaining about Von Richter's guide to Ravenloft, talk about what's going on at my table. Support me, Pepsi. I need a sponsor, and I will sell out. Unfortunately, there's nothing going on at my table right now because I haven't run a game in about a year because of COVID. And I haven't really played in a game in about a year because of COVID. The last game I played in was an utter disaster of an experiment. And I've posted some blogs about it. There's a link to that below. So I thought I'd turn the Wayback Machine a little farther to games I have run in the past and some of the successes, since that seems to be some of the things people want to hear about. So I would say that in my several years of game mastering, I have had one very long game that was probably my single most successful campaign ever, and then a shorter campaign that was probably my second most successful campaign. Now, the single most successful campaign, the most fun campaign I've ever had, probably my best moment as a game master, was my Black Sails over Freeport campaign. The Freeport module and the Freeport stuff from Green Ronin. I love the idea of a pirate city, and I had a great group of players at the time, and the campaign lasted in various forms for about 5-6 years on and off. There was the main Freeport campaign, which was called Black Sails of Freeport. There was two spin-off campaigns. One was called House from the North, and it was about basically exploring the rest of the Freeport world. And then also there was one called Colonists of Freeport, which was a shorter-lived game, and I'm going to talk about that one in this first episode. And if you like this, we can continue with it. So the basic premise of the colonies of Freeport was there's got to be more going on in this world than just this one city. So I looked through the history and the ideas, and I said, oh, and there's probably some other colonies along these islands besides that. So the main campaign was on hold because some of the players were missing. So we were doing an offshoot campaign, and I said, okay, let's take a chapter from the history, and let's say you're some of these colonists, and you are colonizing a village. So your homework before the game starts is you each get to design one building in this new colony city that is being built as a colony of the people who established Freeport. It's a sister city to Freeport. All I said was it's a much more wooded area. This island is much more wooded than the island that Freeport's on. A lot of it's unexplored. It's got a deep sort of more fairy type theme to it, as opposed to Freeport's island, which is more Mesopotamian, city of adventure, pirate of the Caribbean kind of thing. So this was going to be more of a let's explore this haunted forest campaign. So I said you each get to design one building in the town. Town didn't have a name yet. And you could put as much or as little detail in that building. You could just say barbershop and nothing else, or you could go into depth. You're not allowed to tell each other what the building is, and when we start the game, those buildings will be somewhere in the town. I'll have all the information, but if the characters go into a building you designed, you get to say what happens when they're in your building, in case I miss something. So that was the challenge I gave to the 5 players who are going to be in the Colonists of Freeport campaign. Design one of the buildings in this town. I then used a generic city map for the rest of the town, This is not the generic city map that I use. It's just the first one I found that didn't have any writing on it. I don't know where this is from. I don't know if this is public domain or whatever. Whenever I do looks for maps, I try and find ones that don't have writing on it, so I'm not like, violating anybody's Creative Commons or whatever. So the week passed, and about 2 nights before the game started, I received pretty much all the buildings. Every player had either emailed me or texted me or met up with me and gave me their building. So 5 players designed 5 buildings without talking to each other. Every player either designed a blacksmith or designed a building that had a blacksmith built into it, including the player who designed an inn, and on the bottom floor of the inn there was a blacksmith because his idea was everything that an adventurer would need would be in the inn, so they would never have to leave and the innkeeper would get all the money. Another player designed a temple, and in that temple there was a blacksmith because it was the temple of the forge god. The third player designed an actual blacksmith shop. The fourth player designed a mage tower, and in the first floor of the mage tower was a blacksmith because his logic was, well, the mage is going to need stuff. He'd have his own smithy. And the fifth and final player designed a general store type thing, and in that general store was, you guessed it, a blacksmith. In addition to the 5 buildings they had submitted, I had made a list of some of the buildings that were in this town, and of course one of the buildings that I listed in the town was a blacksmith. So when the campaign started, the very first issue, we had a town with 6 blacksmiths in it, including at least 3 buildings that were something else that had a blacksmith built into it. So thanks to collective unconsciousness, everybody involved had decided their building had a blacksmithing in it. So obviously, we named the town SMITHTON, and we decided that SMITHTON's biggest thing was because it had all these blacksmiths in it, was that it was a roadside attraction town and had the world's largest anvil in it, as well as being, the world's largest collection of blacksmiths in one single spot. So the town's big thing wasn't a statue, it was a giant anvil. And everybody in town was directly or indirectly related to something that involved blacksmithing, because this little colony, somehow its whole thing was somehow also became a roadside attraction with the world's largest anvil and 6 blacksmiths. Now the colonists of Freeport campaign only lasted a few weeks. One of the earliest adventure was defending the city from invaders. And during the invasion, one of the players decided to sell his soul and basically betray the city to the invaders. So he made a pact with the guys on the demonic forces on the other side to help them get in exchange for power. I don't know why he did this. I don't know if he was angry at us or he was just upset with the campaign or whatever, but we ran with it. So the town had bad things happening from the very beginning because one of its members had betrayed it, and we kind of ran with his betrayal and him and his fellow adventurers now being all associated with that, and they had to go do something and redeem themselves. And I was using a module. I don't remember what module it was, but I do remember it involved a dead wizard and a crazy homunculus named Talon. So we ran through that module, and some other weirdness went on. It was obviously the betraying the town was kind of bad, and the other character standing up for him, and him trying to make up for the fact that he didn't realize something that horrible was going to happen when he made the pact. with the voice and trying to redeem himself. And he did eventually redeem himself by freeing the spirit of the dead wizard that was trapped in this weird machine that was creating this influx that was allowing all these things to invade the island. And that was pretty much the 5-session adventure of the colonists of Freeport. About that time, the players that were missing had come back, and we returned to the main Freeport campaign. But there you go. So you had some interest in games that were going on my table. This is a game that happened at my table. The foundation of the city with the more blacksmiths than any other business in it, and home of the world's largest blacksmith, the city of SMITHTON, which was overrun by interdimensional pixie-like creatures that were brought to this plane by a weird machine that a wizard had made. If you want to hear more stories from my gaming past, please let me know, and we can continue this. If not, we can do something else. Till next time, I'm your Grumpy Guy Daltes Gaming, the OGGM. The following content was PG-13 and not safe for work or anyone. And I will talk to you later. Until then, go outside and get off my blacksmith. That didn't sound right. Get off my anvil. No, that doesn't. Build a blacksmith. No, you know what I mean.